everybody, I want to welcome you back to another episode of my monthly Thrifted Upcycles. Last month was my very first one, and I had such a positive response that I told several people that I was really going to try to do this at least once a month and pick 3 or 4 things and pretty much just show you before and after, because the things I find thrifted are usually one of a kind or, you know, vintage or whatever the case may be, but it's just here to inspire you anyway if you're at a thrift store and see something like it. So the first thing I want to show you is this gallon baggie of poker chips. I'm always drawn to anything patriotic, and when I saw these red, white, and blue poker chips, I knew I had to do something patriotic. So I paid 99 cents for this bag, and I can't wait to show you what I've got in mind for these. The next thing has been in my stash for a while, and if you follow my thrift hauls, I don't know when I shared this, but I've had this probably a year. And what this is a quilter's, let's see, what are they called? That's what they're called at the fabric store. But what it is a wrapped circle of fabric strips. It is the perfect way to make those fabric tassel banners. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to use some jute twine with the fabric strips, and I'm just going to cut them. And then I also had this little box of mason jar lids that I may incorporate that into my banner. I'm not exactly sure, but just keep that in mind. It's just something I had in my stash, the little gold tops of the mason jars. When I show you the finished banner, I'll tell you the length of fabric and everything I used. The next thing I want to show you is a wooden drawer that I've had at least a year. I thrifted this at a peddler's mall in Kentucky, and I've actually had it displayed on one of my shelves in my den for this past, 9 months or so. But I saw something the other day using a drawer that I thought I wanted to do to this drawer. Just making a little change to the drawer. Stay tuned and I'll show you how I'm going to display that. And last but not least is something pretty easy. I recycle my grapevine wreaths. I use them for a couple seasons and then I'll tear them apart. They're about $5 at Walmart, and why throw away a very good grapevine wreath when you can just take all the stuff off and use it again, because most of the time your ribbons or whatever you use will cover up any flaw that's in it anyway. And I thrifted these at some point in time, these 2 big bundles of small greenery. If you've ever priced just a ivy wreath, they are ridiculous cost. I want to say I maybe paid a couple bucks for these 2 bushes of ivy, and I'm actually going to take them apart and make my own ivy wreath. When I get that constructed, I'll show you where I'm going to display that. So I'm going to be busy for the next day or so, and I'll show you what I'm doing with all these thrifted finds. Alright everybody, I'm ready to share with you what I decided to do with the gallon bag of poker chips. We're out here by the pool. I'm going to walk around the flower bed, and I'm going to pan around here. Hope I'm not making you too dizzy. And I have a flower bed over here on the side of our sunroom that I have just a few things on. It's not super visible unless you round the corner like this. What I did is I took the poker chips and I glued them onto this metal thing I had. And when I get a little closer, I'm going to explain to you what this metal thing is. It actually is the top of an old dryer. We went in my husband's metal stash and he took a sawzall, and I measured the top of the dryer, and it just kind of fit perfect. It framed it out. It was just almost the perfect size. I'm not sure if I'm going to hang it or not, but I just love how it turned out, and I love the way it's just kind of propped up there on that little fence, and it just gives a little pop of color to that little side flower bed. So the bag of chips cost me 99 cents, and I used about a half a tube of some E6000, and there you go. Okay, we're back inside, and we're in our back den here, and this is what I did with the jelly roll. I was calling it honey bun, but it's a jelly roll of fabric strips. I just cut the strips in half, which made them about 2 inches by 21 inches. And I folded them over. I took 4 strips and folded it over and just tied a little twine there. They're not even knotted or anything, just a little bow to secure them. These are those mason jar lids. A friend of mine is borrowing my crocodile. Actually, I just used a little cheapy 99-cent hole punch. It punched right through those mason jar lids. I had the chipboard letters that spell out summer. So I'm going to back up here and let you get a better look of my banner. Those fabrics were lots of pinks and bright colors and just very summery, so I decided to paint my mason jar lids yellow and just give it a more of a summery look. But I love the end result, and I mean, it really cost me a couple dollars and some things I had. So I'm going to enjoy this banner this summer. All right, we are back in my den, and I have these big floor-to-ceiling bookshelves on each side of my fireplace, and here is where I put my little vintage drawer. And this is the small change I did. I lined the back of it with some vintage looking book pages. It's actually just 12 by 12 scrapbook paper, and what it did is it kind of backlit the back of the drawer where it really showcases what I had in there. Before, it just kind of blended in with the wood back, and so now it really shows up the cross and my initial and the little ampersand. So I just love the look of it. So if you ever come across one of these little vintage drawers, it's just a really neat way to display something, and I love it on my shelf like this. I want to give you a little behind the scenes of how I'm doing my ivy wreath. I took my little stems here, and then I pulled all the little twigs off of it, and so what I'm left with is a bunch of these little 3-piece connected, and I'll probably cut those apart even more so that I'll have just little single twigs to place where I want to. And I'm using my little melting pot for the very first time, so I'm anxious to see how that works. And so by using a little smaller, like actual twigs like this, I have a little bit more control over exactly where the ivy is going and even placement. If I just took this big 3-piece twig and just stuck it somewhere, I just don't have the control like I would if I was dealing with little pieces. So it might take me a few minutes longer, but it'll be exactly how I want it to look. All right, we're going to step into my dining room now. It's just off my entry hall, and I have a window hanging on the wall, and this is my ivy wreath that I hung on there. I just used a piece of black thread just to show you, but I'll go back and change it out into some fishing line or use a command strip. Both of those work equally as well. But love the end result, classic farmhouse design. So I hope you enjoyed my upcycles this month, and I appreciate you watching. Bye-bye.